Hello and welcome to Live from FSS. I'm Scott Wolfson, your host and the owner of Florida Sun Studios. Live from FSS is a weekly show that we broadcast every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern right here on Facebook. Our apologies for starting a little bit late today, but we've got an exciting show for you. Momentarily, I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman who runs Virtual Setworks, the CEO, owner, Eric Pratt, and we're going to take you behind the scenes in our studio and his production of the different sets, the virtual sets, green screen sets that we use in our productions. A lot of people are asking, well, how did you get that look? How do you get those sets? Well, we're going to dissect that and take you behind the scenes today. Live from FSS is the complete professional turnkey solution for all your video production needs. The show includes useful tips and techniques that you can use in your own production. We take you behind the scenes, as we will today, as well as interview top industry experts in an array of fields. For those of you not familiar with Florida Sun Studios, or FSS as we're commonly known in the industry, we are a small independent broadcast studio located in beautiful downtown Fort Lauderdale. We're near all the local hotspots, the businesses, the airport, the seaport, the courthouses, and just miles from Fort Lauderdale's sunny beaches. We also are a full-service video production company performing the following services: satellite media tours, corporate videos, commercials, live shows, live internet shows, now offering Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Periscope Live shows, and basically anything and everything that can be filmed against a green screen. Florida Sun Studios is the place that all South Florida businesses go to, professional businesses go to for professional, affordable, turnkey solutions with all the bells and whistles you're accustomed to seeing every day on television. Everything from multiple camera angles, Skype video calls, in-studio guests, graphics, titles, and much, much more. Florida Sun Studios services all the major news and sports networks, everyone from Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ESPN, ABC, CBS, NBC, and every other acronym that brings you news. And now, without any further ado, join me in welcoming the CEO of Virtual Setworks, Eric Pratt. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Scott.
No, it's a pleasure having you. And I'm so glad you were able to join us today. I know you were on a flight a few days ago coming back from Singapore from a trade show. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the show and give us your insights and take us behind the scenes as to the different sets that we produce here at Florida Sun Studios, or I should say that you produce. What a lot of our audience doesn't know is that the sets that we use, the virtual sets that we use are the sets that you yourself designed at Virtual Setworks.
Yes.
We took a set of yours and it was a news set, and we customized it to make it applicable for our logo, putting our logos in and so forth, and branding it to our own particular interests. But basically, your operation, Virtual Setworks, provides sets for a variety of industries. And before we get into all that, I want to have you introduce yourself to the audience, tell them a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Virtual Setworks.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Eric Pratt. I've been doing virtual set design and working in the broadcast industry for the last 20 years or so. Virtual Setworks is a long-time business venture that I've championed. Primarily, it's a website, virtualsetworks.com, where people can purchase virtual set products, and also it's a point of contact for getting virtual set services. So we do design services in terms of modifying our existing sets to meet your needs, or doing custom sets from scratch.
What advantage does a company like yours that specializes in virtual set production have over clients who are looking to make a corporate commercial video and they're looking for the ideal background? What advantage does a company like yours offer to clients like that?
So there's a strong fit between us and companies like this in terms of being able to very agilely meet their needs at a budget. So we listen very carefully to customers in terms of what kind of price they're looking at and what kind of services and products that we can offer for the corporate streaming public education government markets. We address a pretty broad range, all the way from three-letter news networks to regular little studios, and churches and public. We do a lot with government as well.
Eric, your sets look awesome. I know they're awesome because we use them in our own productions. But for those of us sitting at home, maybe not familiar with the cost and all that entails, it looks to be pretty expensive. Can you give us an idea of the rough cost of what it looks like to have a state-of-the-art virtual set with multiple camera backgrounds?
Well, there's a couple of different variables there. So the sets themselves are fairly inexpensive, or at least I like to think so. We get a variety of perspectives on that. Sets start at like $160 and can go upwards of $280, depending on the kind of format you're ordering. So the sets themselves, I feel, are fairly inexpensive. And you can get them for even less if you're purchasing them as packs. So we sell them in what we call volume packs. So you can purchase 10 at a time for a substantial discount. In terms of actually getting a full turnkey solution to get your message out to the internet, that's also a really wide range. You can purchase virtual set software that will do streaming for a few $100s. Backgrounds and lighting also can be had at those prices. But in terms of getting a real quality finished product, you are looking for a substantial investment in the tens of thousands of dollars, unless you use a service like yours where somebody is providing that as a solution. Somebody just comes in, they can produce their show at your facility, and they're able to leave with a finished product.
Well, now your sets, and if you go to virtualsetworks.com, you'll see a host of different sets that they sell, packages, volumes, and you can buy them individually. You service a variety of industries, and in Florida Sun Studios, we service the community at large in South Florida. Our hotspot actually is Fort Lauderdale, but your sets, you'll see everything from the medical field, from technology, the legal field, news, talk shows, sports, and there's such a variety that you offer. And to me, at least someone who is in the business, who has bought your sets, who's familiar with what hard sets cost, you go to a news station, a local news stations, or a network news station, you see the hard sets that they have. And by the way, little secret, newsflash, they do use a lot of little green screen sets too, which a lot of them are your customers, and we'll get into that. But to get a hard set itself, those start off at tens of thousands of dollars. And for an operation like ours at Florida Sun Studios, that's not just doing one show, but servicing a multitude of news networks, sports networks, different people who book our studio for Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope shows, and they want to have their own brand, their own company, their own backgrounds. That would get quite expensive to have to go from hard set to hard set. It would be like shuffling in and out of a theater production with staging and lighting and everything. Whereas with the green screen, and we're going to take people behind, it gives you that turnkey solution in almost a seamless snap of a button. You snap your fingers and the shot changes. And we want to show people, first of all, we want to welcome everyone that's just joining us just now. This is Live from FSS. I'm Scott Wolfson, your host and the owner of Florida Sun Studios. And we're honored and pleased to be joined by the CEO, president of Virtual Setworks, Eric Pratt, who's joining us from New Hampshire via Skype. And we want to encourage you to send us your questions and comments, and Eric and I will do the best to answer your questions and comments during the broadcast. For those of you we don't get to during the broadcast, we'll get to you afterward. We want to take you behind and kind of demystify some misnomers, give you an idea of exactly what goes into these sets. Now, I have my technical director, his name is Scott also, and then another director there too, Eric, not to confuse it. We've got two Scotts and two Erics we're dealing with today, not to confuse things, but we want to show people the set that you're looking at right now. This is the standard camera shot that I use for my set, and then we're going to also show a wide two-shot set. If Eric was on set with me, he'd be sitting in the chair beside me here, and he'd be on set. But now we'll go to the split screen of the Skype call, which will give you an idea. So that's the set we have now, which is the 2-box or the split screen of myself and then Eric on the other side. And let's go back to the 2-shot for a second. And the 2-shot, our set, Eric's sets actually give the advantage, virtual sets, they give you the advantage of having up to 16, they give you 16 camera angles that you could use, up to 16 camera angles. Now we go with a 3 to 4 camera operation for our shows. But the reason why they give you so many camera angles is depending on where your talent is seated, the positions, you may want to have a different wide angle, a different close-up angle, a different extreme close-up angle, a different medium shot, and so forth. They give you that flexibility of being able to pick and choose your angles. And to have that ability, that flexibility is pretty amazing. And now we're going to go back to my camera, and we'll go back to my shot. And before we bring Eric up, I want my director, Scott Ferguson, who's great on the TriCaster, I want him to show just a green screen. Just with the click of a button, we're going to have just a green screen now, and you're going to see now that is literally behind the scenes. Let's go to let's go back and show the keyed-in shot. Okay, now we're going to show the green screen from this. We'll show the green screen from this. Well, actually, that was a sports set we used last week. We'll show the green screen of just the wide angle camera or the 2-shot camera. Right, so it's a matter of getting the camera angles right for the different shots. You've got an ISO shot, as we would call it, or the guest shot for, let's say, if Eric was on set. You've got my shot, which would be camera 1, and I'd be looking into camera 1. Now let's put the background. Okay, now we got my shot there. And it's really a matter of pre-planning, having all your shots set, your logos, your lower thirds, and you too can produce a newscast, a sportscast, a talk show that is on the level of a Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or ESPN. Let's go to the sports shot, the wide shot, and just give them an idea. Okay, that's our studio shot, the wide shot. Okay, so something like this, and now we're going to show you some movement on air. Just want to show you how we actually get those angles and those shots. So if you're looking at the 2-shot right now, we're going to go back to the 1-shot or the single camera shot of the basketball that we used with Kenny Anderson last week. We'll go back to that shot. Okay, now I'm going to have Scott Ferguson just kind of zoom in and get that shot set as if it was for an ISO of me. And you see him manipulating the background all within our camera switcher, our TriCaster. Pretty amazing what you can do. You can't do this with a hard set. You're basically stuck or married to the angles that you have. So the flexibility of being able to go from a tight shot to a wide shot and have everything branded accordingly really gives us an advantage, and the customers over at Virtual Setworks an advantage. Let's go back to the 2-shot with Eric. We're going to give him some love in New Hampshire there. It's not all about the virtual set. And Eric, one of the hardest things that I find, and that clients, as they get into their own show production, whether they're shooting their own production here or we're servicing the networks, one of the hardest elements in the pre-planning process is actually getting and selecting your backgrounds. Especially for a multiple camera shoot. And I want you to kind of touch upon that as to how your sets kind of find a solution or a remedy to the hair-pulling headaches that people find of being able to just get started with the sets.
So that's a really good point. We sell over 100 virtual sets, and there's a reason for that, because everybody has unique needs and perspectives on what they want their background, their studio production to look like. And within each of those 100 sets, as you mentioned, there are 16 angles. And each of those 16 angles has multiple layers. And each of those layers is available in resolutions greater than 4K. So you can see there's a lot of different elements that we can bring to the table in order to give customers the level of freedom and customization that they're looking for. It's very interesting to see what people do with our sets, because everybody has their own take on what they want to show. So someone will take a set and they'll say, yeah, I really like this set, but I don't want a desk in it. which I believe with that Studio 194, that sports set, that set comes with a desk, but you had us turn it off for you. Customers can turn it off because it comes as a bunch of different layers. And then let's say, yeah, I like the medium shot, but I want to be just a little bit closer in. So if you're producing in HD, for example, we have a higher resolution version than HD that gives you enough resolution so that you can zoom in on it to get just the shot that you want. So, and then we provide areas for you to put your own content. So you can put video out the back screen, you can put your logo on the screens, you can, in some cases, depending on your platform, route live video to it. So on the TriCaster, for example, you can put live video coming into the TriCaster into those screens. We provide a way for routing video to those elements. So that's generally how people start. They look at the site, they pick a set out, and then we fine it down from there. And we try to make the largest amount of customization available to the customer. But if what the customer wants exceeds their ability to modify the set, for example, if they want different camera angles than the 16 we provide, or they want to have major thematic changes like colors changed, that's where we get involved in terms of doing set customization.
Can you explain for our audience, those of us maybe sitting at home at work, not familiar with green screen, chroma green screen, what exactly is a green screen, and what are virtual sets, and kind of break it down for them in the layman's terms, in the most simplest terms for them?
Absolutely. So a lot of people are familiar with green screen technology because they've watched the weather, and all at its most fundamental, the green screen technique was invented in the 1950s. And possibly even beforehand, if you want to include things like The Wizard of Oz, where they used certain color replacement techniques. But the most common implementation is in weather. Everyone's familiar with that when they're watching the news. The guy standing in front of the screen with the weather information on it, he's not really standing in front of those graphics. He's standing in front of a green screen, and there's a piece of equipment or software that removes that green and puts something else there. And in fact, a lot of news is done these days this way. So when you're watching the news, it's entirely possible that you're not looking at a real set. And most viewers will be familiar with a lot of the special effects that are done in movies these days are also done in green screen. It's just the process of taking that highly chromatic color, removing it, and replacing it with something else. And the reason why green was chosen is because it's one of the colors that's least used in people's clothing, unless it's St. Patrick's Day, for example, and it's very far away from skin tones or anything else that you might want to see commonly. So that's why green is used. Blue is also used a lot, but blue is more frequently used in things like people's clothing, the color of their eyes, background elements. So blue is generally only used in specialized circumstances where you can control what the talent will wear. Virtual sets is a term that probably evolved in the 90s. And originally it only applied to true 3D virtual sets where the camera and the background moved together. And that terminology slowly became adopted by anybody who could make somebody look like they were in a studio. The only thing that the term virtual set or virtual studio does not include is when you're chroma keyed over a two-dimensional background, like an animation of just moving background. So the term virtual set or virtual studio does imply depth. That there's an environment involved, and to a lesser degree that you're trying to convince the viewer that you are somewhere that you're not.
It's interesting that you bring up the chroma green screen and the skin tones, and our studio, our large set here, the green screen set, we have the green screen, and we use it for everything from internet shows, commercials, corporate videos, news live shots. We also broadcast an entire network news and sports shows here when the anchors are here on location, or if there's breaking news, they have our studio set. And something that we don't always have the luxury of doing, that we have in a pre-planned corporate shoot or production where they're booking us in advance, we know what the shoot's going to be for corporate and so forth. But when someone's coming in for a news live shot and we're booked, let's say in an hour or two for a Fox News or CNN live shot, and I've had folks come in and no fault of their own, they don't know they're walking into a green screen set, they'll wear green. A few years ago, I had ESPN's Heather Cox, sideline reporter, for those of you familiar with ESPN. She came into the studio and they had her booked in my Studio 3 set, and she was wearing all chroma green. So her top and bottom were green and she was basically translucent. Well, we have a couple options that we do when that happens. One, we can't shoot it with the green screen because you'll only be able to see her face, which would look kind of odd. So the second thing we do is we take a light stand and we put up a blue pop-up screen and we key out that color. So that green can then stay on her, and the color that's keyed out or not going to be seen is the blue or the royal blue. But I have guests that come in sometimes for CNN or MSN or Fox or what have you, and they're wearing green. I always make a mental note when they come in, especially if I have a few minutes, whether they're going into makeup or they're getting ready or showing up 2 minutes before the live shot, which, we kind of cross our fingers is not the case, but we're always prepared and ready in any circumstance at Florida Sun Studios. We always kind of take a look. Are they wearing something in their clothing, their ties, their shirts that may have some sort of green? And if they're wearing chroma green or green, we always try to think of a backup. Well, we could put a monitor behind them and put an image in them, or we could use a blue pop-up screen. Well, what happens if someone's wearing both blue and green? And that's happened to me before. And actually about a minute or two before live air, the CNN director decided to have us send out the green screen shot and have them key it out, meaning we sent the green screen shot out to them, and on live TV, they actually keyed it out. We could have probably messed around with our tools within our camera switcher to get the right key, but the guest literally showed up about a minute and a half before the shot. So having the blue pop-up screen as a backup, the green screen, you were like, oh, what are we going to do now? So it has me thinking, and I'm the type of person, and my guys here, of always having a backup to a backup to a backup for a solution. So I'm thinking in my head, well, should I get another pop-up screen? And I don't want to get something that's going to mesh with or have a problem with skin tones, anything with any oranges or yellows or magenta or reds. So those wouldn't work. So what I try to do is I try to think, oh, maybe purple may be the color, unless someone's wearing purple, because, unless you have the skin tone of Barney the Purple Dinosaur, I think you're going to be okay. But anyway, we'll get more back into that and hear the guys in the control room laughing. And we want to thank everyone who's joining us just now. This is Live from FSS, and I'm Scott Wolfson, your host, the owner of Florida Sun Studios, and we're joined with Eric Pratt, the CEO of Virtual Setworks, a fabulous company that produces some stellar excellent virtual sets that we use in our own productions. The set we have that we're using today and that we use for our Live from FSS show and that other clients use are from Virtual Setworks. As you can see over my right-hand shoulder, depending if you're looking camera right or left, is the Florida Sun Studios logo, which is over my shoulder, that we put into the television set. So his sets at Virtual Setworks allow you to customize it to your own brand and company message out there, which is huge, because when you're broadcasting your own show, you want to get your brand consistent, your message consistent, your logo. You want everything to match, basically, and that's important. Everything between your lower third, which just popped up for me, which is the locator, also giving your title, your logo, the shirt I'm wearing, the Florida Sun Studios shirt. Not that we're trying to sell shirts here, but you want to get your brand and your message on cue. And we want to thank those of you joining us, especially Mike Richmond over in Miami Beach, David Anixtein over in State College, Pennsylvania. Who else is joining us today? We have James Joseph Drury, who just celebrated a birthday the other day. Happy birthday to an old friend of mine over on Los Olas Boulevard. And Tamira, thank you for joining the broadcast. We want to encourage you to send us your questions and comments just go to the Florida Sun Studios Facebook page and send us your questions and comments, and myself and Eric will do the best to answer those questions. Also, we'd like you to like the broadcast, share it, send it, we want it to spread and get the word out there that, hey, there is a solution for professional yet affordable production when you're dealing with green screen and video production. And if you live in South Florida, it's even better, because Florida Sun Studios is your one-stop shop for all your production needs. You don't have to be a huge corporation or a big network like Fox News or CNN or ESPN to use our services. We extend that professional platform, that Live from FSS platform, to our guests that come here regularly for news live shots, as well as the community at large, the legal community, the medical community, the business community, small mom and pop shops trying to get their message out there, their brand out there. We're here for you, and we're located in beautiful downtown Fort Lauderdale near all the major hotspots, just miles from the sunny beaches of Fort Lauderdale, just a couple of miles from the airport, connected right near the downtown businesses, the airport, the seaport. So we're located here, and we're here for you in South Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward County, Palm Beach County. We're here for you. Getting back with Eric, and you touched upon this before, what if a client loves your set, loves the angles, but doesn't want to use the set, without getting too technical, as a virtual set, which is sort of what we did, we modified it. They may not want to have the desk that's in the set or what have you. Could you explain what the solution is and how easy it is to be able to modify those sets?
Well, in that case, it's still a virtual set. It's just you've changed how you're using it, which is entirely the intention of the sets. Modifying sets is fairly easy. It kind of depends on your skill set. One of the easiest things to use is something like Photoshop. Will let you assemble the different layers. So we sell our sets in a variety of different formats. We sell them for vMix, we sell them for TriCaster, we sell them in Photoshop format, we sell them as PNG files, and we sell them in different resolutions. The reason why we do that is because somebody who wants to use these as directly in an editing program is going to want the PNG files, because the PNG files will let you bring them straight into Premiere, Final Cut, Avid, you name it, whatever editing program you want, and you can assemble on the timeline your specific look. So if you wanted that desk in front of the talent, you can do that just by putting that on a track. But there are other applications for using our virtual sets. So if you are very familiar with Photoshop, you might want to get the Photoshop version, which has all the layers assembled beforehand and will let you save out a composited image in the way that you want, or bring it into Virtual Set Editor, which is Newtek's virtual set editing program, which prefers taking PSD files. We also sell them for Wirecast and vMix, and those come as PNG files, but with what's called an XML file, which sort of tells the software where to put everything. Customers can then choose what elements they want as part of their set, and then they can place additional elements like backgrounds behind the virtual set or into screens, or order the layer in which the talent appears within the set. So if you want, usually we have the talent is behind the desk, but if you wanted to keep the desk and want the talent in front of them, that's possible. If you want to be able to do a virtual zoom, those abilities are also available. So it really, it's strongly dependent on the platform the customer is using and what kind of effects that they're looking to have as part of their production.
At Florida Sun Studios, we try to make it as easy and as seamless for our customers and potential customers as possible. I know you got a little technical there, and maybe some folks didn't quite follow you, which makes sense, to those of us who work with these sets and who have mastered them and use them and modify them. But we give them, they don't have to think about anything when they come here other than the content of their show. They could focus, I guess the main point I'm trying to get is, using sets like yours, especially when they come to our studio, they could focus on the content of their creations and not get all bogged down in the technical aspects of it. Oh, am I doing this right? Is this layer there, that layer there? We kind of make it easy. And with your sets, I think once you have the look and feel of what you want for the set, all the camera angles, the main camera angle, the ISOs, the wide shots, the two shots, then it really becomes secondary as to the learning curve, because it really is as simple. Once you have all the layers to what you want, and we have, and once you have all that in the set, it's as simple as clicking a button. And we want to see if we have some comments here. I know some gentleman here, Patrick Young, had a comment for us, and let me check here. I'm just trying to get up to speed on my Google Chrome browser, so just give me a moment. Let's see what Patrick Young. So Patrick Young says he wants to talk a little bit more about the technology. Is Eric coming in via Skype or his smartphone? If he had a green screen behind him, would he be able to be keyed? Well, Eric, I'm going to let you answer that question about the Skype and about the green screen behind you.
So yeah, today we're using Skype. We're using a Skype TX solution, which is feeding into the TriCaster. No, I'm not in front of a green screen because I'm actually I'm at the office, not the studio. And if there's a slight echo in my audio, it's because at the last minute I had to work to the conference room from the main room, which would have much less of an echo. So I apologize if my audio is less than ideal for this production.
Eric, you're doing fine, and you look great. You sound great. And the content, I think you're getting the message across of what your product does, what it delivers, and the solution it provides. And also in absence of having a hard set, or maybe a studio like ours that has to, or that services a variety, a multitude of customers, everyone from network news stations, sports stations, and the community at large, especially here in South Florida. And we want to get back to showing you behind the scenes of just how easy it is. And I could just tell you, at a click of a button, we can go from my shot, which is the ISO, to the two camera shot. You see the two camera shot there, and then back to the ISO. Okay, now in my shot here, let's say we want to use a different background, and we have, let's say, one of our skyline shots that we use right there. We're doing a nighttime shot for, let's say, the Fox Business Channel. We had a guest in last night for Fox Business. It's as simple as that. Now let's say it's daytime and want to have a daytime shot up. It's as simple as a click of a button with the green screen. Whereas if you're, or now we're nighttime on Fox News for breaking news right now. It was Hannity or Tucker Carlson show. And now we want to go back to our Florida Sun Studios set right here. And it's as simple as clicking different images. Whereas a hard set, you don't have that latitude, that flexibility. You're stuck with what you have. I'm not knocking hard sets. They have their purpose. But when a studio like ours is servicing such a multitude of customers, we have that flexibility of being able to go from a news talk show set to a skyline and back and forth. Now let's go back to the basketball set that we used last week, the single shot we'll see here. And we'll see that come up, right? So right there, that was my shot when I had Kenny Anderson next beside me. And then we'll go to the two shot when Kenny was sitting with me on set. Or actually, that's the shot of, but here we are. And that's the set we use. Now we could fine tune and we could adjust everything accordingly. And Scott, I'll let you zoom in on the controls there, and you could show people us manipulating the set, moving it around. We could adjust the height. Different things like that. And before we actually import these images into our TriCaster, our camera switcher that we're using, we can adjust different elements of it so we don't have a logo sticking out of someone's head or to the side. Those are things that we look for. Say I wouldn't want to be like right behind it right now. I want it to be to my side or over my shoulder. So if you could put it over my shoulder, we'll see something like that. Correct. So there's a lot of flexibility that this gives you. Now we go back to the single shot of me on, and I'm addressing my camera, and it's as simple as that. Switching between cameras, switching the sets, and let's see what the green screen looks without that again. People want to see the green screen. They're just tuning in right now, what the green screen looks like. It's just a green screen. It's a high-quality fabric green screen. Mighty fine piece of furniture there, as maybe Eddie would say in National Lampoon's Vacation to Clark Griswold there. Anyway, just a little humor there. But anyway, use the green screen. We go back to the green screen, and then a click of a button gives you the green screen, and then back instantly, boom, like that. Right now you have the shot. So it's as simple as that. And we really take you behind the scenes, showing you how we put that together. And I want to bring Eric back into the fold and a few things that we have to keep in mind. Eric, could I bug you? I'm playing the role of director here. Can you just tilt your laptop just down? Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'll just sit up.
It's okay. All right. That's good. So we'll go back to the split screen of me and Eric. Eric, I want you to kind of touch upon, not getting too technical, but touch upon some of the things that the folks at home have to think about, keep in mind, not necessarily when they're coming to a professional studio like ours, but if they're doing their own production at home, what are some of the things they have to keep in mind when it comes to green screen production and virtual set production, i.e. lighting and all that stuff?
It's lighting. I mean, the most important aspect of any virtual set production is to get your lighting correct. And lighting a green screen is sort of a dark art. You want to make sure that there's a very even, if we could go back to Scott for a second and turn his green screen off, or turn his key off. So if you can see, Scott's got a very even green background, but you can see even then there's a slight gradient from bright in the upper left to dark in the lower right. And making sure that Scott's background gets enough light that the chroma keyer sees it as that saturated chroma and green that it really needs in order to make the difference between things that are Scott and things that are not is very important. And it's even more complicated by the fact that if you put too much light on the background, it becomes oversaturated and it becomes less chrominant. It needs that color. And then there's another problem that can be complicated by putting too much light on the backdrop, which is that you get something called spill. So that bright light is hitting that green and it's bouncing off onto Scott. Now, there are techniques and technologies, one of which is called spill suppression technology, which looks around the set and tries to find things that are green but shouldn't and adds in magenta to counteract that green coloration. But it's not the same thing as getting a really good, evenly lit backdrop and then having your talent lit separately. And one of the keys to doing this is separating the talent from the backdrop. So if you have a fairly large green screen, you can set your talent forward from it. So there'll be a fairly large amount of green screen behind them, but it's hopefully evenly lit. And because they're so far forward, you can light them separately. So you do your traditional three-point lighting of your talent, and you get that separation from the backdrop. You avoid that spill as much as possible. So that's really, that's the first step in lighting, because you want to make sure that there is that separation. A good key light will help with that as well to define edges. So back up behind you here. The other part is lighting the talent like they're actually in the set that you're going to put them in. So that requires looking at the virtual set and saying, where are the light sources coming from? How strong are they? What color are they? And trying to duplicate them. If you look at major feature films, the lighting of their talent in the green screen tends to be highly integrated. So they really focus on making sure that, and in movies they call them plates, that the talent is going to match their back plate, so that there's no disbelief. Because actually, more important than making sure that the virtual set looks real is psychologically fooling the viewer's mind into thinking that the person is there, and nothing besides a poor chroma key will alert the viewer that that person is not really there, than the lighting that the talent has being different than the lighting of the backdrop.
Very interesting, and hearing it from the perspective of someone who does this professionally, who designs and customizes these sets. Eric Pratt over Virtual Set Works give us a nice perspective. And just reminding everyone, that the Live from FSS broadcast will be edited. It will be repurposed and broadcast on our Facebook page. We'll put it on our blog as well, and you can go to FloridaSunStudios.com for more information on the Live from FSS platform, how you too can book your own show or your own production all live from FSS. It doesn't have to be live, it could be taped, but the platform is Live from FSS, and I'm Scott Wolfson, your host. Want to give a special shout out to an old friend of mine, Shelly Zuckerman. Good to see you, Shelly. Also, Norma J. Moore is joining the broadcast, and we want to thank everyone who's joining us today. Tom Bohm, who just visited the other day. A shout out to Tom, a good friend of ours at Florida Sun Studios. And want to go back to take people behind the scenes. If we can go to the two-shot of our set right now. Okay, so we're in a two-shot, and I want, if we could, okay, so the two-shot there, I want to show people the green screen there, the green screen shot, if we can go to that. Okay, now, if you could just take the camera and zoom out so they could see a wider shot of the studio set. Okay, we could even go a little further even. All right, well, maybe that's the furthest we can go. So to give you an idea, it's about a 25-foot width of a room, 25 by 25, and about 9-foot high ceilings. So it's a good sized room, but it gives us the flexibility of being able to put us in situations where you think that the actual background or the actual stage where you are is a lot larger than what it is. It gives you the illusion, like if we go to the sports arena there, that you're live at a game, at a basketball game, at a hockey game, you know, with the fans behind you, and it really gives you that optical illusion. You'll see behind me, you know, between myself and the set, there's like a glass window with the bars there, and it's like as if I'm sitting right there at courtside at a desk. Now the set that actually came with it had its own desk. We modified it because we wanted to keep our desk. If we were using the desk that Virtual Setworks gave us, but we didn't want to have that in the shot, what we would do is we would cover it with green. We would have the green chroma green cloth and cover it, and it would disappear. You would be able to see right through it. You'd be able to have your hands on the desk, working at the desk. So whatever you want to hide or conceal, you would use that green screen, which is interesting. Now we'll go back to my single shot right now. And this is the Florida Sun Studios set that we use, and we chose to use as our distinctive branded company logo background. And let's bring Eric back into the mix here. Don't want him to feel like we don't have love for Northfield, New Hampshire now. But we want to encourage everyone to send us your questions and comments. This is fascinating stuff, you know, just to see behind the scenes look of a green screen studio, of how it's done, and hearing from an expert such as Eric Pratt. And I know I've bugged you enough times on the phone and emails, hey Eric, what about this, what about that? And you've always been excellent about getting back to me, making the modifications I need, and you always made me feel as a customer that I am a priority, and I know you're servicing a multitude of clients. And I wanted you to get into who you service and maybe some of the big names out there, some of the news stations, and I'll let you take it away and tell us a little bit about who your clients are and who you service at Virtual Setworks.
So service is very important to us here. It's one of the things that we excel at, and that's there's partly the reason for that is because these days I feel like when you call up a company and you get first thing you get is a machine, and then you go through the different menus, and you finally get a person. And maybe they're in the U.S. and maybe they're not. Different companies have different choices about where they put their call centers. But then you're getting somebody who's reading a script. And I really think that service is really important in order to have happy customers. So I take a special care in that. I used to work in tech support, so I hold other companies to a very high standard. So I hold myself to a very high standard. So when people like Scott have numerous questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And the other people are here. I also make sure that they also take that same level of seriousness about responding to customers and their questions. As far as customers that we've had in the past, there's been hundreds. As I don't know if I mentioned, we've been doing this for over 20 years. So we've had a lot of customers under our belt. One of the most high profile that I think that we've done, and I'll go through some broadcast oriented ones in a second, but we did a lot of work for the company EMC, and they're a Fortune 50 company for those of you who don't know them, but their primary focus is cloud-based technologies, but they own a lot of subsidiaries as well, and I believe they were just acquired by or merged with Dell, but the company that we worked with at the time was EMC Squared, and they had a TriCaster as well, and they did all of their internal corporate communication. Keep in mind, this is a company of tens of thousands of people, so to get the message out on certain things, different projects they're working on within the company required its own division. And they had a lot of different virtual set needs. So we made a lot of different custom from scratch virtual sets for them. There are some other good examples in that genre. MoneyGram. Anytime you go to a grocery store, you'll probably see their logo somewhere for wiring money anywhere in the world. We did a set for them. The Gemological Institute of America. They're the people that decide how valuable your diamond is, or what month, what gem it is this month. But from a broadcast standpoint, we've done work with the Washington Post, the Canadian Broadcasting Network, the National Hurricane Center, a bunch of four-letter KFXA, KGAN. Another good example of a corporate entity would be the International Institute of Learning. That's another example, but we also do work with churches. There's a very large church in Ohio, the Midland Bible Church. We've done work with them. So we do custom virtual sets for a really broad range of people. As I mentioned here, churches, government agencies, TV stations, three-letter networks, and corporate. So it's anybody who's doing production but wants a high value to their content, but doesn't want to invest in a traditional background.
A traditional background, I guess what most people are thinking, a hard set, which, a professional hard set, if you go to any of the news stations locally in your market, or you take a tour of NBC studios in New York, CNN or Fox, you'll see those hard sets, and they can get quite expensive. I mean, we're starting off for a small studio, maybe tens of thousands of dollars for a hard set. And the advantage, again, to having virtual sets, the sets that Eric sells at Virtual Set Works, is that it's a fraction of the cost. For $300-400, not even, you could have a set that you can modify. In my opinion, as someone who's experienced using these sets day in and day out for our productions, for client productions, it's a no-brainer. It's a bargain to be able to have the flexibility of having those multiple camera angles, being able to put your logo and brand everything. Want to give a special shout out to Chad O'Malley, a cousin up in Philadelphia, PA, city of brotherly love. Have a cheesesteak for me today, Chad, if you don't mind. Also, want to answer Patrick Young's second question. He's asking what kind of cameras we use here at Florida Sun Studios. Good question. We use, and we have 6 of them in the studio, we use the Sony XD-Cam EX1s, EX1 and EX1Rs. They are excellent cameras for both the field and the studio. A lot of people say, well, what about DSLRs? Well, being in the industry that we're in of servicing the news and sports networks, as nice as the pictures are from the DSLRs, they just don't fit in with our type of production. We need something that's continuous, that's robust in the field, has that SDI out of the camera. If you're not familiar with SDI, most TV sets and consumer cameras have what's called an HDMI, which most people are familiar with, that send out that embedded audio video signal. Well, one of the requirements that we have as a broadcast news independent studio is having that professional connector, like an SDI, so it's more robust. A lot of those leads that come from the HDMI sometimes will lose connectivity, and we don't want to risk that on a major news live shot or broadcast. So we use traditional broadcast cameras with the traditional broadcast chips. The shallow depth of field, the cinematic look is not so critical when it comes to productions like this. This is more like a hard news talk show type show, and I want to thank you very much for that question, Patrick. Always good to hear from our audience and trying to answer your questions and what piques your interest and what you got going on. And we want to thank everyone today, especially Eric Pratt from Virtual Setworks, who has been kind enough to join us today. He came over on a 20-hour flight the other day from Singapore, was there at a trade show. And Eric, I want to thank you for your time, for your expertise, and for enlightening our viewers on behind-the-scenes productions over at Virtual Setworks and what we use at FloridaSunStudios.com. And if you're interested in seeing some of Eric's products over at Virtual Setworks, just go over on your laptop, your mobile device, and go to VirtualSetworks.com, and you'll see firsthand the sets, the quality, the broadcast quality of those sets that we use, as you'll see the split screen I'm in right now, that we use here. Eric, want to thank you for joining us today. Look forward to chatting with you again soon. I'm sure I'll be on your website looking at the different sets there, and very impressive stuff you have, impressive work, and we're so glad that you could join us today.
Thanks for having us, Scott.
Eric, have a great day. And we want to thank everyone who took time out of their schedule. We're sorry we started a few minutes late today, but we want to thank everyone who tuned in to join us live from FSS. Every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we're live right here on Facebook. We'll have the show edited later. We'll put up for broadcast, and want to wish everyone a great day until the next time that we go live from FSS.